it's Father Hayes, and we are continuing our series of videos on the Mass, beginning to kind of bring together these different threads that are going to form this tapestry, this picture for us to help us have a deeper context, a more complete context as we begin to go through the parts of the Liturgy of the Eucharist. So what we talked about in the last video was the definition of the priesthood of Christ and the different threads that are woven into that definition. So now we're going to begin to start unpacking those threads, those different aspects of priesthood that draw us back to the person of Christ. So for the next couple of videos, one of my main sources that I'm going to be using is this commentary. It's a Catholic introduction to the Bible focusing on the Old Testament by Dr. John Burke and Dr. Brad Pentry. I would not necessarily recommend you investing in this book, although you could. It's a great investment. It's not, it's a little bit more expensive than the other ones. But their material is also available in smaller books, and I recommended one of those in an earlier video. So just to give you a sense of where I'm getting some of this material from, and that also that this material is accessible to everybody. So, moving forward, what we want to talk about in this video very briefly is priesthood as it was in the beginning. How do we understand priesthood? Now we're focusing on the Old Testament, but what we may not realize is there's really different types of priesthood. There are different periods, if you will, of priesthood in the Old Testament. So starting with the beginning, what was priesthood in the very beginning? So we go back to the very beginning with Adam. And this is one of the interesting things that we can see, and Dr. Bergsma in particular really brings this out in some of his books. So Adam, of course, we know is the first man, right? Well, as being the first man, he is also the first son, right? The firstborn son. Now, one of the things as God creates the garden, and then he puts Adam in the garden, he gives Adam instructions. Adam is to till and to keep the garden. But what Dr. Bergsma points out to us is that this is actually could be easily misunderstood because we lose a lot in the translation from the original language to English. And so what the Hebrew actually intimates is that it's not necessarily that he's to till and to keep, like he's a gardener, like if you're going to work out in your garden in your backyard, but rather he's to serve and to guard. Okay? Well, what does that mean? Well, that's priestly language. What do you serve? What do you guard? You're serving the temple. You're guarding the holy things of the temple. So what that intimates to us is that the Garden of Eden actually is the first temple. All the tabernacle tent in the desert and then the temples that are constructed by Solomon and then later by Herod are really kind of making the garden present in a way, as well as having a place for sacrifice. So we'll get into that temple theology in some future videos. So in this understanding, though, we see the first priest is Adam. Adam is a priest. Of course, Adam sins. There's the break with God. Adam is expelled, and Eve are expelled from the garden. Then we have what we call the prehistory in Genesis, and that includes the story of the flood. So at the flood, God basically does a do-over. And he takes Noah and Noah's family and the animals, puts them in the ark, and then basically purifies the world and starts over with Noah. So Noah, when he finally finds land, what does he do? In establishing a new covenant with God, he offers sacrifice. So we see Noah as a priest. And so what we're going to see up until the story of the Exodus is that the priesthood is passed down generation to generation from the father to the firstborn son. So we have that with Noah to his son Shem, Abraham to Isaac, all the way down to Aaron. So in this sense, when we understand priesthood, and this is what Dr. Bergsma and Pentry indicate in their book, and citing the fathers of the church, is that there is a natural priesthood that is passed from father to firstborn son through the genealogies, all the way from Adam through Shem, all the way to Abraham. And then by extension, we can see this also with Moses and Aaron. One other thing we can see too is in the story of the Passover. What is the instruction that Moses gives right before they leave Egypt? Right? The night of the Passover, the night the angel of death comes to visit, is he instructs the elders of all the families to procure for themselves a lamb that they would slaughter in a sacrificial, ritualistic way. They sprinkle the blood on the doorpost and the lintel, and that's what protects them from the angel of death that passes over. And then they would eat, in a ritual meal, eat the lamb. So we see that in this case, the priesthood is widespread throughout all the peoples of the Israelites, all the 12 tribes. This will change, though, as we get farther into the story of the Exodus. So to wrap up right now, we begin in the beginning with Adam, and Adam is firstborn son of God, the Creator, and he's a priest. He's given instruction to serve and to guard the first temple, which is the garden. Because of his sin, he is cast out. Then God renews the covenant with Noah, and we see this priesthood being passed down from father to firstborn son, to the point where as the people of Israel are gathered together and grow, the 12 tribes grow, this priesthood also grows throughout the families of all 12 tribes. As I said, though, this will change with a particular event, and we'll talk about that in our next video. God bless.